Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. Plenty to share with you, but first up, cutting across to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressing a press conference.
This is not an era for war. उसको उनके कम्युनिके में भी उसको कोट करके उपयोग किए उस समिट में. ऐसे आज भी वसुधैव कुटुंबकम को पूरे दुनिया में भारत से आए हुए एक लाइन को इंग्लिश में उसको वन अर्थ वन फैमिली वन फ्यूचर ऐसे करके सब लोग माना है. और यूएन रिफॉर्म्स के लिए जो बार बार प्रधानमंत्री जी बात करते हैं, इन सबको मान्यता अगर मिलता है, ये हमारे देश का प्रधानमंत्री जी का कोशिश के वजह से हुआ है. इसको नेशनल एग्जीक्यूटिव में पूरे रिकॉग्निशन मिले और प्रधानमंत्री जी को नेशनल एग्जीक्यूटिव इसके धन्यवाद कहते हुए उनको कंग्रेचुलेट भी किया. फिर विस्तार से गुजरात इलेक्शन का जीत के ऊपर अच्छा डिस्कशन चला, जहां एंटी इनकम्बेंसी को प्रो इनकम्बेंसी के रूप में बदला और 7वीं बार जीतना और वोट शेयर भी 50 से 53% तक जाना. और एससी क्षेत्र में शेड्यूल कास्ट रिजर्व से क्षेत्र में 13 सीट्स में से 11 सीट जीतना. पिछले 2017 में हम मगर अभी 11 में जीते हैं शेड्यूल कास्ट रिजर्व सीट्स में. और ट्राइबल सीट में 27 सीट्स में से 23 में हम जीत कर आए हैं. और
We'll continue, but cutting across to big news coming through here. It's a Right Stand exclusive news break here on CNN News 18. Top Delhi police sources are telling your channel that 3 Punjab-based leaders from the Bajrang Dal, Shiv Sena and the Congress were on target of the terror suspects. Sources say that the date and place were also decided. It was all supposed to be done in 4 days. The date and place was also decided for 2 of their targets. One was supposed to be targeted on the 27th of January and the other was supposed to be targeted on the 31st of January. So it was all supposed to be done in a span of 3 to 4 days. That's what sources are telling CNN News 18. The recce for 2 of the leaders was also completed by both the terrorists. So they had also recce'd the leaders. They had identified the date of targeting them 1 day after Republic Day and of course on the 31st of January. Now, on completion of the task, eliminating the leaders and the duo were supposed to get 50 lakh rupees, 1 crore and 1.5 crore. So 50 lakh rupees for the first murder, second murder 1 crore, third murder 1.5 crores for the respective targets. And as token money, they had received a total of 2 lakh rupees that was received via Hawala operators. On investigation regarding the targets, police has ascertained the identity. They are trying to track the family. Few missing pieces of the body are yet to be found by the team. That's what we are given to understand. Let's go across to Anshul for more details. Yes, Anshul.
Shocking details have been coming to the fore since we have been on Friday that we heard that 2 terrorists have been captured in the national capital and especially in Jahangirpuri area. And so the Delhi police was also in the dock in this entire matter, because remember, Jahangirpuri was the worst hit place during the 2020 riots, and since then both these accused have been living over there. Both these terrorists have been living over there, and both these terrorists have a previous case against them as well. And even after that, there was no tracing that was done by the Delhi police. It was only after the intelligence agencies came to the fore and told the Delhi police, gave them a headway in this direction. It was then only that the Delhi police went ahead and arrested both these terrorists. It was the Delhi police, the special cell of the Delhi police went ahead and arrested both these terrorists. So yes, the details that are coming to the fore, as you rightly mentioned, that the entire recce had been done. Jagjit, who was actually tasked to create unrest in Punjab and to motivate the Khalistan movement in Punjab, whereas Naushad, the second accused who has been arrested, he was in fact given the task to actually create unrest in the national capital and target senior right-wing right-wing Hindu leaders. Also, what we have been told that since they had to prove their worth to their handlers in Pakistan, what did they do? They went ahead and killed a person. A 21-year-old Hindu boy was killed by them, and his body was mutilated and thrown in a nearby drain, is what we have been told. And for that, they made a 37-second long video. This video was sent to their handlers, after which, as a prize money, 2 lakh rupees was transferred to them. So yes, this entire modus operandi has now been unearthed by the special cell team of the Delhi police, and they are now interrogating both these accused. 14-day police custody has been granted to them by the court, and in this police custody, they are actually trying to figure out if there are other people who are also in the national capital, who are also placed in the national capital or in other parts of the country.
Were they in touch with elements in Pakistan? Were their handlers operating out of Pakistan?
So yes, the initial information that the Delhi police sources have given to CNN News 18, they say that they were in touch with handlers in Pakistan, and it was to only those handlers that they went ahead and sent that 37-second long video in which they killed a 21-year-old boy and mutilated his body and threw his body in the drain. So this video was actually sent to Pakistan by them through the Telegram app, is also what we have been told by sources within the Delhi police. So yes, this entire modus operandi has now been unearthed, and then further investigation is on, just to find out if there are other people and other terrorists who are also hiding in some places to carry out such sorts of sleeper cells attack.
Well, thank you for your inputs, Anshul. So clearly diabolical, and somewhere, ladies and gentlemen, this tends to try and mirror the entire Sartanse gang, and where there was again proof of killing a Hindu, beheading, mutilating them, and the videos were being shared to Pakistan. Here again, these people have been asked the proof of that you are going to be able to execute a murder or kill brutally. They execute or kill and mutilate a 21-year-old. That's the level to which they have been brainwashed and radicalized, and they're being paid money. So these are brainwashed radicals who will do anything for money. Do these kind of scum need to be part of Bharat and our society, or should the cops do better to try and get them out? How many more innocents will we lose to such hatred and to such rabid proxy war attempts that are being made by the enemy? These are questions that remain. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to the other larger challenge in the neighborhood. The Pokhara tragedy, where there have been loss of lives, also set up a lot of questions. The biggest question is, are our neighbors waking up to the reality that there is a dire human cost that they may have to pay, they are paying, along with an existential cost as a nation itself, as soon as they walk into this debt trap diplomacy by the Chinese? It's not 2 or 3 years. It's over decades that this is being built up. Now it's come to a place where lives are at stake. Was there a rush to try and open this airport under pressure by the Chinese, who are trying to make ownership statements as if this is part of their BRI project? Is China a neighbor that is worthy enough to be trusted, no matter how much money or dole that they offer? Should neighbors in the region take the bait? Should they realize that the only big brother that they can trust on in this neighborhood is Bharat? The only nation that is going to look at progressing together, not at the cost of another, is Bharat. The only nation that is going to not cannibalize another neighboring country in this region is Bharat. Will they wake up to this? And will they now stop any overtures by the big bully in the room, that is China? And will they wake up to its debt trap, which also can turn into a huge human cost and a possible death trap in these nations? Well, let's try and understand why Beijing's predatory diplomacy is somewhere being looked at as cause of what has happened in Pokhara and in Nepal. Let's try and understand this, because airport project is part of China's BRI initiative, is what China said. China has put in a lot of time, effort, might and muscle to ensure they get the contract. Their favored companies get the contract. The loan to Nepal was extended by the Exim Bank in China. So all these aspects, Nepal-China inked a $215.96 million deal in March. This Pokhara airport is a decades-old dream. It was first envisaged back in 1971. The plans were drawn up. In 1975, it was action, and it's been stuck. It's been delayed. It's been stuck. And again, it was efforts to revive it, started in 2011, just about 11 years ago. And again, it's gone through a huge amount of pricing and overcost and estimation, and it's cost Nepal dear, ladies and gentlemen. It's cost Nepal dear. Multiple protests have happened. A lot of people have tried to say, do the right thing. But have governments and leaders under the influence of Chinese pressure, have they really done the right thing? Nepal PM Prachanda inaugurated the airport on the 1st of January. Sources said need to earn 2.5 billion via airport to pay even just the interest of the loan. That's how much this airport is going to hurt Nepal. Location of Pokhara Airport is also a major concern. The way it's been built and it being opened up so fast have also raised concerns. The Auditor General's report itself has raised concerns. Sources, airport inaugurated under pressure without checks. Sources also telling CNN News 18 via investigations editor Manoj Gupta that pilots were not trained to land with the sharp cut. Also, sources, Nepal Foreign Ministry feels China is overstepping while claiming this as part of their BRI project and exerting the kind of pressure. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are issues. What had happened? Let me just tell you. 1st of Jan 2023, this airport is inaugurated. 2nd Jan on the Kathmandu Post, there is a detailed article by Sangam Prasad. It says that this project has been there since 1975 as a dream. There have been shady deals that have dogged this entire construction. The construction began when political instability was at peak. Officials expressed doubts over the new airport look. Audit report pointed out lack of technical preparation. Audit report said that the facility would make civil aviation body incur losses. The government clueless about how to attract foreign airlines. And let me just add to this, ladies and gentlemen, what that report very clearly detailed said. The audit report has pointed, and I quote, lack of technical preparation for commercial operation of the new airport. It looks like the Pokhara International Airport will not come into operation immediately, even after the construction is completed. This is what the Auditor General report said. How is it that there was operation? No international airline was operating. Pilots, were they eventually trained? This aircraft crashed as it was trying to attempt the landing. Is this all pressure of this vicious death trap? Death trap to death trap, that's the question we are asking. And it's in serious consideration that our neighbors wake up and realize. Our neighbors wake up and realize. Dr. Roger Liu is with us this evening. Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli is with us. Professor Victor Gao with us. And Professor Brahma Chalani also with us. My namaste to everybody. Greetings. Good evening. Thank you very, very much for joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Roger Liu, how many more instances have to happen where nations are crippled, lives are lost, there is crisis, humanitarian crisis, nations are on the verge of going bankrupt or on the verge of civil war breaking out? All around our neighborhood, we are seeing it. These are all nations that were engaged by China and they fell for the lure of money coming in from China.
Thank you, Anand, for having me, and I'm happy to see you here. First, I would like to express my condolences for this tragedy. Well, I think the investigation agency need to investigate it in details regarding whether the new airport was hastily used so that the navigation standard operating procedures were not familiarized by the pilots, and they just give in to the pilot and cause this tragedy. I think later when the international agency like FAA comes, they will understand more details. But I think there is a problem that we have to indicate it, is that Nepal has been waiting for and highly relied on the BRI-related projects. So the airport is just one of them. Well, they are planning to build the railways that connecting Nepal with Tibet. That's one. And there are other projects, including the roads and the dams. All these are very large projects. But I visited Nepal in 2018. And after I talked with a bunch of Nepal think tankers, they told me that until 2018, most of the projects are still the paper project. They were only on the paper. So after that, we have COVID. And then the Chinese government, to keep their pledge or to maintain their international image, they want this to be finished on time, even during the time of COVID, under the shortage of the worker force. So we cannot rule out the possibility that to hastily make this to meet the deadlines of the projects, well, the quality of this, the construction projects were sacrificed. So we have to look into this issue. But I'm afraid that, well, under the pressure of the Chinese government, this smaller neighbor of ours will not be able to do that because of, well, the Chinese has been dominating in all procedure, including the planning, the construction of all these projects. Even should there be a problem, will the Chinese government generous or transparent enough to open this up for international scrutiny? Well, this is something that we have to pay attention to.
Now, look at the pressure on the Nepal government that this airport itself has to generate nearly 2.5 billion just to be able to pay the loan interest. Victor Kao, would you want to respond to Roger Liu?
First of all, for a mountainous country, landlocked country like Nepal, to build up its connectivity projects like an airport is absolutely a necessary thing. And this is a decision only to be made by Nepal as a sovereign country. Now, China has a friendly border with Nepal. The Chinese people, the Nepalese people respect each other. For China to have a role to play is also very natural, very logical. For the past 4 decades, China is the country which has built up the largest amount, the most up-to-date, extensive networks of connectivity projects of all kinds. And this is not surprising. And I think for China and Nepal to cooperate in building airports and other connectivity projects also make a lot of sense. And I think this is the mega trend of our time, to build up connectivity, to make sure that your people will be in a better position to command a higher value for the goods and services you can produce to your markets, to your customers. And this will be a sure way of improving the situation for Nepal as a country and for the Nepalese people going forward.
But can the Nepalese people even afford this? 2.4 billion is only loan interest. So much so that is it true or not false that the Chinese government had insisted that an joint escrow account be created where all the income coming from all the airports in Nepal be put into that escrow account so that Nepal could pay back. So the cost of it itself is so dear that there is no profit to be made. So whose progress is it? The entire cost of the Trans-Himalayan Railroad, the project cost is $8 billion. That's 1/4 of Nepal's GDP. How is that even sensible? Is it not true that the estimated cost, the first cost estimation of this airport in Pokhara itself was 3 times what the Nepalese themselves thought would cost?
Allow me to make a point. You hear about the death traps a lot in Western medias, especially by the United States. I would say the allegation of a death trap itself is a trap to force the developing countries into a position where they have no funding. I would say for those who accuse China of, let's say, death traps, then you need to come up with the money to support countries like Nepal to build an airport or other connectivity projects. Purely saying death trap doesn't solve the problem. The problem now is that countries like Nepal need to build up connectivity projects. And then they do not have enough money to pay for the projects. You need to come up with other ways.
No, they have a free passage and all their trucks can pass through the ports of India. There is a free entry, there is no visa, there is no problem. They can access all the ports in Bengal, in Kolkata, the ports towards Mundra. There is no problem. So where is this issue of connectivity? And if the issue is that the connectivity is for Nepal, then why is China claiming this to be as part of its Belt and Road Initiative and it is its project? So is it Nepal's project or is it China's project, Mr. Gao?
Listen, you have your Indian perspective. Nepal has Nepal's perspective. And the Indian perspective is not the exclusive and the only perspective applicable to Nepal.
No, but how do you know that Nepal's perspective is the Chinese CCP perspective?
For Nepal connectivity...
how do you know that the China... is it Nepal's perspective or is it the CCP's perspective? That was my question.
You need to defer to the Nepalese perspective.
Why should I as an Indian defer to a CCP perspective? I as an Indian will defer to a perspective where with a nation we have no boundaries, with a nation we have free ingress and egress, with a nation whose citizens do not need a visa or do not need any, on their Nepalese identity cards they thrive in India. And it's been a fruitful relationship all along. So what kind of a story or narrative are you building? Well, let me just take this forward, and you don't need to use that tone with me, Mr. Gao. I'm not going to be bothered about your tone, Mr. Gao. It's a CCP perspective, it's a CCP imposition on Nepal, where you have tried to say that I will have a communist government there and you communists have to work with us communists. But the point of the matter is, in this, where is the interest or where is the growth of Nepal and its people? What is the interest rate at which you have lent that money?
Do you want to give me some time to
I'm asking you, if it is about the people of Nepal, have you given them interest-free loans, or are your loans higher than even what IMF would give Nepal?
Sir, do you want me to respond, or you just want to keep going on?
Please respond, sir. Why does it irritate you when somebody stands up to you, Mr. Gao?
First of all,
so we take it lying down.
Listen to me very carefully. You need to respect Nepal as a sovereign, independent country.
Is China respecting Nepal as a sovereign country? Is China respecting Nepal as a sovereign country?
China respects both India and Nepal as sovereign country.
Is it doing it technically? Is it doing it? Is it doing it in action, not in words? Is it doing it in action, not in words? What is the interest rate that you are charging them on this loan that you have extended?
Sir, I hope India will respect that Nepal is an independent, sovereign country. What India does, every person and every citizen in Nepal knows. What China does, I want to understand what is the CCP's point of view. Brahma Chelani ji and Shrikant Kondapalli, do you disagree with Mr. Victor Gao, who's telling India what India needs to do when asked what is the CCP's intent here? Professor Brahma Chelani.
Well, I think the first thing that we should remember, the most important factor as to why this new airport was inaugurated in a rush, is the fact that Nepal has come back under communist rule. When Nepal became the world's 6th communist ruled state in 2018, it opened the path for China to make strategic inroads into that country. And Prachanda took oath as the new Prime Minister of Nepal on December 26th, which happened to be the 130th birth anniversary of Mao. Mao was a man whose ideology inspired Prachanda to lead a decade-long insurgency in the country. And no less importantly is the fact that the previous government, led by Sher Bahadur Deuba, became a hindrance to the implementation of China's BRI, because Deuba stated openly that Nepal prefers to pursue projects based on grants, not on loans, especially loans that come with high interest. Now, if you look at India's aid to Nepal, it's either grant aid or it's very low interest credit, usually below 1%. By comparison, the average interest rate that China is charging Nepal is between 6 to 7%. So when you talk about Nepal having to repay $2.4 billion per year in interest for this new airport, imagine where will this money come from? And look at the other countries where BRI projects have been bleeding money. Sri Lanka's economic collapse a year ago happened. Why? Because of China's debt-trap diplomacy. Sri Lanka's Matala Rajapaksa International Airport, which opened in 2013 in Hambantota, has been dubbed the world's emptiest. Likewise, Hambantota Port remains largely idle, as does the multi-billion-dollar Gwadar Port in Pakistan. So this Pokhara airport, the rush to inaugurate that airport, just 5 days after the Maoist Prime Minister took office, the blame for this should actually fall squarely on the shoulders of Prachanda. After all, as you pointed out, Anand, the Auditor General's report pointed out aviation safety aspects.
Yes.
So this rush to open the airport, ignoring the warnings of experts, resulted in this avoidable tragedy.
Sir, the Brahma Chelani ji, one correction, that 2.4 billion, it's not dollars, it's in Nepali currency.
It's good to know that, because I couldn't believe there was 2.4 billion.
Yeah, no, it is 2.4 billion Nepali currency, because the overall extension of the loan is around 300 million overall over a period of time.
But still, Anand, 2.4 billion Nepalese rupees for
it's a lot of money, sir.
For a poor country like Nepal, is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. There is no way they can run this airport profitably. That means they're going to get further sucked in. And I asked this simple question: how much did the CCP charge? You go back, sir, into that article of the Kathmandu Post. It goes back into the history, and it said that even the bidding was done in such a way that the loan will be given by a Chinese bank to 4 companies or 3 companies who are listed as far as the Exim Bank in China is concerned, and all these 3 companies were Chinese companies who were favored. The rest of the 12 bidders, all of them were asked to drop out. So all of this is chronicled, and I am quoting the Kathmandu Post. So if for somebody to sit there and really talk about deferring to Nepalese integrity and the Nepal citizens and giving out loans at 6% is quite rich, Shrikant Kondapalli-ji. Shrikant-ji, how would you want to respond? So China and the Mr. Victor Gao, Professor Victor Gao right now is saying that there is no debt trap. This debt trap is a Western narrative. So what we are seeing in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in Nepal is all perhaps figment of our imagination.
Well, compared to the Dubai holdings, Singapore holdings, or other lending agencies, the Chinese Exim Bank, CDB, China Development Bank, and other banks give at a loan of nearly 0.4%. Compared to other lending agencies which have 0.02 or around that. When you look at, for example, the Ahmedabad to Mumbai high-speed railway, for 52 years it is going to be at a very low interest rate of some 0.02%. So that is how many international lenders provide credit when it is required for infrastructure projects and others. In the case of Hanoi Metro, the second phase of Hanoi Metro was charged at 0.5%, and then conditionalities, etc. So that stalled the Vietnamese government to put on back burner the metro project. Likewise, the Laos high-speed railway is going to gobble up the Laos economy in a short while. Because it is already inaugurated and it is quite capital intensive in nature. We saw what happened last year with Sri Lanka in the financial meltdown, and this is also the same fate with the CPEC projects. Pakistan already in debt, huge debt, and seeking IMF bailout and so on. In terms of Nepal, in 2017 when Nepal signed the Belt and Road Initiative projects, this airport was, the agreement was signed in 2016, not 2017, when Nepal officially joined the BRI. So when Nepal joined the BRI, the Chinese circulated a draft saying that there should be policy harmonization between Nepal and China, which all the parties have rejected in Nepal, because that is the bottom line in the Nepalese politics. That harmonization, policy harmonization, means that the Communist Party of China will tell the political parties in Nepal to follow ABCD in toto. So that is what policy harmonization means. Even if Nepal has a difference of opinion, the Nepalese will have to follow the Chinese perspective on this. And as you have observed, Anand, there is also the Communist Party of China and Communist Party of Nepal and other splinter groups. They have had training programs in terms of the communist ideology, as well as on how to handle the bilateral relations. So there is a huge, and the Chinese ambassador to Kathmandu has been pretty active in terms of the public relations with the Nepalese politicians. There are a lot of rumors. I recently went to Nepal a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people suggest that there is a lot of bribing that is happening to the Nepalese politicians. Hundreds of crores of rupees being transferred in this. In my interviews, they have been suggesting the figures as well, including ministers and even former prime minister and others. So there is a huge Chinese influence operations in Nepal, and the policy harmonization has been rejected. However, there are, for example, the 2016 contracted Pokhara airport built by a China automobile company. It is not by a professional, airport construction company, but an automobile company has built this. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi last year handed over the things to the Nepalese ministers as a formal gesture. Although the airport is not ready yet, as many have observed, in terms of the operations of this. There are also other controversies, as Trufang mentioned. There is the railway line. The railway line is expected to cost between Lhasa to Kathmandu $56 billion. That is one estimate after the initial surveys. Now, Nepal's GDP is about $20 billion. And if they build this $56 billion railway line, now we have a potential Hambantota in Kathmandu, which is quite possible if this program continues. Secondly, there is also the Kirung border post. The Chinese are insisting on opening up now. Before, due to COVID, they shut down the border post. But now that the COVID lockdowns have been lifted, so they are insisting that this border post be opened up so that there is more influx of Chinese in Nepal. So that basically means that there is going to be a huge problem. And within Nepal, the entire telecommunication sector is also now dominated by Huawei and ZTE.
Right.
This is a sensitive region, and telecommunications are now predominantly organized by these telecom companies.
Right.
So there is also a telecom security danger that is existing in these contracts.
Right. Well, point well made, and you've just put it out there, laid it threadbare what is happening. Now it is for everybody to make their inference. We've just got news coming through, and it's from the South China Morning Post that Uganda has turned away from the Belt and Road deal because they are blaming China stalling on loans. 8 years of stalling this entire project and slow down. Uganda has cancelled its $2.3 billion deal with China Harbour Engineering Company to build a 273-kilometer long rail line from capital Kampala to the Kenyan border town of Malaba. Analysts say that the landlocked East African nation's decision could affect the viability of neighboring Kenya's SGR railway. Interesting that the company that is responsible for this is a harbour company. So what they have said is that this the company that is supposed to be making this company is the China Harbour Engineering Company. So an automobile company is making airports and a harbour engineering company is building railways, Dr. Roger Yu. So clearly these are all fronts. And if you look at the entire bidding process for Pokhara Airport itself, the three companies that were listed, all three of them, irrespective of who got the deal, who got the bid eventually, it would end up being the same entity.
Yes. CHEC, or China Harbour Engineering Company, is the subsidiary of CCCC, which is the largest project company in the world. So they do everything. So, well, their name is a harbour company, but they do the project on the land. So I think that's the name. They're lost in the namesake.
Right.
But I have to point out, and I would like to respond to Professor Gao. Well, the BRI projects are not altruistic. All right, the China always like to say in their narrative, like they are the givers, they're generous givers to help these poor countries to find the future way that they're going, to help them. It's not. BRI has the design to expand China's market to those recipient countries. So we have to notice that. And, well, Ms. Gao might be right on the debt trap. Well, a lot of lenders are lending a lot of money to BRI recipient countries as well. However, we have to notice that China is creating an exclusive reliance on China for these countries. So not only money that they are lending, they are exporting the ideologies. They are exporting the know-hows. They are exporting their workers. They are exporting their banking and loaning practices. They are exporting their workers. They are using the Chinese products on different projects of theirs. And most importantly, they invite those young people from these recipient countries to study in China in order to work for the BRI projects. So they are creating a Chinese sympathetic groups that will be the Chinese supporters within this country for the future. I think this is something that we have to also pay attention to.
The point is, credit to China, credit to the CCP and the PLA for coming up with such a master plan. They have deep pockets, they are using this soft power, hard power, comprehensive national power. Credit to China if it wants to build itself, and it harbors a dream. The CCP has a dream that was set up by Mao 1949, and they have a dream that they want to achieve by 2040. That's credit to China. But what about these nations? Are these nations thinking about their own sovereignty, their own identity, and where they are going to be? Or are they okay to become vassal states of a nation which has expansionist designs and it is unabashed about it? We leave it there. I've run out of time. I thank all our panelists. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, we turn the spotlight towards this hypocrisy march, ladies and gentlemen. So when there were protests in our country, they were waxing eloquent about freedom of speech, rights under democracy, etc. And when the protests started landing on their doorstep, from national emergency to bringing a law to curb the protests even before they happen. Hypocrisy much? We ask when we come back. Stay with us.